Hi guys, this is Rogue back in Minecraft, and today I'm going to be starting a series on me building a 10-bit binary to denary decoder. So, first thing I wanted to explain was how it worked, and why an AND gate like this would not work. So yes, this AND gate, this works by the fact that redstone torches turn off when the block they're placed on is powered. So at the moment you can see that these two torches here are turned on, which then powers this bit of wire in the middle, powering this block, which turns off this torch, which turns off the output. Now that does make sense if you think about it. Now, what AND gate does is, when all inputs are on, the output will turn on too. So if I switch both inputs, the output will turn on. Now, you can see here that because these two blocks are powered, these torches turned off, which means that this isn't powered, allowing this to turn back on and power this piston. But then, if I deactivate any of these, it will turn off, even though this one is still active. So that's the basis between an AND gate. Now, you can add more inputs to this, so you just have to extend it back and put torches on those, and so you've got, instead of 2, you've got 4, and it works exactly the same way. These torches just power this torch, so it turns off, but then when all of the torches are off, this will power this. Now, what you might think is an easy solution to making a binary decoder with this is to have an AND gate like this, where it only links up to a certain numbers of the inputs. So this, if this is 1, this is 2, this is 4, this is 8, if you know binary then that'll make sense. But basically if you had 1 0 1 0, then with this gate you could work out that if you press this one and this one, the output will turn on, because only these two inputs need to be turned on to turn on the output. Now, the problem with this is that while yes it does work for 10, so 1 0 1 0, it also works for 1 1 1 0, because this output doesn't affect anything in this area. I'm getting Facebook messages, okay. So yeah, that also works for 1 1 1 0, which is 14, and also for 1 1 1 0 1 1, sorry. So that's 11, and even 4 ones in a row. So that's 15. So that won't work. So the solution to this is to build this, which is basically a mixture between an AND gate and an AND gate, if that makes sense. So with this will only output when the input 1 0 1 0 is inputted. So if I put in 1 0 1 0, the output will turn on. But because both of these are also wired up to this wire, which turns off this, if either of these turn on, so this repeater will power this block, which means that this wire turns on and then powers off this torch. And the same thing happens with this lever. And this means that you can ensure that it will only turn on for 1 0 1 0 and not any of the other combinations. And this is essential in binary decoding. So if you're making a 10-bit decoder, basically you have to have 10 of these inputs. So if I just go over here, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Now that is the length of one of these 10-bit binary gates, or at least how I'm designing it. Now, because of the length of this thing, I'm just going to place wire over the top here. Because of the length, you have to use a repeater, which I will show you in a sec, like this. So basically what this does, if I place it in the right place, it will mean that any signal will be able to reach where the torch is, which is here. So any signal, even if it comes right from this end, will always be able to reach this torch. Same goes for signals that come from over here. They'll always be able to reach the torch. And so the way you work out which binary number this gate will output, basically if you place a torch on one of these blocks, that represents a 1, and a wire represents a 0. So if I wanted to put in, say, 12 like we had before, then I could put 0, 0, 1, 1, which is going backwards, but then you just put dust for the rest of them, and that would be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, so to speak. Now, because of how binary works, this gate can count, if you put them all to ones, all the way up to to 1023, and that output is now off. And to turn that output on, every single input, which is like this, has to be on. So if, just one sec, let me get a lever, to turn it on. If this is on like that, so this is lit up, that means that this block is powered, which means that this input is a 1. This is represented as 1 in the number. And so this gate will still output nothing, because none of the other inputs are true. So that's basically the basis of this, and because of the number that this can count up to, I'm going to have 1023 of these things. It's going to be absolutely huge. So if you just let me quit out of this for a sec, and I'll go to my world, which I've started making this in. Now this is going to be the control room. As you can see, I already have a 7-bit display set up, 4 digits. So this will only have a display of 0 or 1 basically. And I haven't done much here, but I will show you the 7-bit mechanics as such, or at least how the 7-bit works. So if I just break out of my cell here and go behind here, you can see all of this wiring is actually quite neat. I quite like it. And each number has its own little unit. So basically, each of these inputs here, so this input, this input, this input, this input, they control a different segment on the display. So if you follow, say, this input here, it comes up here, into this block, and along here, before going into this repeater, which then goes into this block, which turns off this torch, which unpowers all of this, turning off this segment of the display. Now that might be confusing if you don't know Redstone physics, so I will post the wiki page in the description of this video. So after this, I'm going to be going to a time lapse, practically, of me starting to build this, and I will be using World Edit, basically just to make life easier. You'll see that working, doing its job. But yes, I shall see you sometime later.